Hi friends, I'm going to read to you a wonderful story titled The Mitten. It's written and illustrated by Jan Brett. It's an adaptation story, which means it's a folktale or story that has been told for some time, and Jan Brett simply put words to paper and created this phenomenal story. The Mitten, a Ukrainian folktale adapted and illustrated by Jan Brett. Dedicated for Sylvia Kyle, Ruth, Ann Johnson, Rebecca Lynn, and Tag Bagley. This story has great insight, and it's a wonderful opportunity for us to predict. Predict is when we are going to tell the future, when we're going to invent what's going to happen in the story. We use our imagination, we use our eyes, and we look at the book. We use the pictures, the illustrations, or sometimes the words to help us understand and think what's going to happen in the story. As I start reading, take a good look at all of the images in the story because they might give you a hint or open up a secret view of what's going to happen next. Once there was a boy named Nicky who wanted his mittens made from wool as white as snow. At first, his grandmother Baba did not want to knit white mittens. "If you drop one in the snow," she warned him, "you'll never find it." But Nicky wanted snow white mittens, and finally Baba made them. After she finished, she said, "When you come home, first I will look to see if you're safe and sound, but then I will look to see if you still have your snow white mittens." So off Nicky went, and it wasn't long until one of them new mittens dropped in the snow and was left behind. Oh no, I think he might be in trouble. A mole tired from tunneling, discovered the mitten and burrowed inside. It was cozy and warm and just the right size, so he decided to stay. Snow-Toe Rabbit came hopping by. He stopped for a moment to admire the winter coat. It was then when he saw the mitten, and he wiggled in feet first. The mole didn't think that there was room for both of them, but when he saw the rabbit's big kickers, he moved over. Are you looking at the image of the mitten on either side? It's starting to tell us what's going to happen in the story. First, there was a badger. Then there came the shoe rabbit. What do you think's going to happen next with the next animal? Let's take a look and see if you're right. Remember, when we're making these predictions, you're using your imagination and your eyes. You are listening to the story and trying to decide what's going to happen in the future. Next, the hedgehog came sniffing along. You were right, it's a hedgehog. Having spent the day looking under wet leaves for things to eat, he decided to move into the mitten and warm himself. The mole and the rabbit were bumped and jostled, but did not being ones to argue with someone covered with prickles, they made room. Oh no, I see another animal coming, but I wonder if the owl will go inside. What do you think? As soon as the hedgehog disappeared into the mitten, a big owl, attracted by the commotion, swooped down. When he decided to move in also, The mole and the rabbit and the hedgehog grumbled, but when they saw their owl's gleaming talons, they quickly let him in. Take a look at what's coming next. Do you recognize that animal? It's hiding under a tree. Up through the snow appeared a badger. He eyed the mitten and began to climb in. The mole, the rabbit, the hedgehog, and the owl were not pleased. There was no room left. When they saw his daggers, they gave him a thump. It started snowing, but the animals were snug in the mitten. The waft of the warm steam rose in the air. The fox trotting by stopped to investigate. Just as a sigh of cozy Mitton made him feel drowsy, and the fox poked his muzzle in. When the mole and the rabbit and the hedgehog and the owl and the badger saw his shiny teeth, they gave the fox lots of room. Do you see what animal's coming next? Will there be any room? A great badger lumbered by. Great bear lumbered by. He spied in the mitten all plumped up. Not being one to left out in the cold, he began his nose way in. The animals were packed so tight as could be, but what animal would argue with a bear? The mitten swelled and stretched and pulled and budged too many times its size, but Baba's good knitting held fast. All of these animals have been able to come in. What do you think is going to happen when an itty-bitty mouse comes about? Along came a meadow mouse, no bigger than an acorn. She wiggled into one space left and made herself comfortable on top of the great bear's nose. Boop. What do you think is going to happen? Will more animals come by? When we look at the clue that the author has left us, it's of the little boy. Will the little boy climb in to the mitten? The bear, tickled by the mouse's whiskers, gave an enormous sneeze. Achoo! Forcing the sneeze shot the mitten up into the sky and scattered the animals in all directions. On his way home, Nicky saw a white shape in the distance. It was his lost mitten's silhouette against the blue sky. As he ran to catch his snow-white mitten, he saw Baba's face in the window. She looked to see if he was safe and sound, and then she saw that he still had 2 new mittens. But I think something happened to one of them. The end. I hope you really enjoyed this story and you were able to make great predictions. Sometimes, like this story, our predictions can be wrong. For instance, when the mouse made them sneeze, although he did fit and get into the mitten, it was the mouse that made it all come out. What a funny change in story. That's why we make predictions, and then we check our predictions against the reading. We listen to the story and we check the pictures, the illustrations, to see if our predictions are correct. Sometimes we have to alter or change our predictions to make them better. And that's okay. That's how we learn and develop to understand literature a little bit better. I look forward to seeing your predictions as to what you think will come from a next adventure. Goodbye, friends.